Well, there are now two official Republican presidential candidates for 2024.
That's right. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley announced her bid this week. She is the first to take on former President Donald Trump within the GOP. But take a look at this. There's a crowd of potential candidates looking to also jump into the race. You've got South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who kicked off a national listening tour, as he's calling it, last night, ahead of what is considered a potential bid. Joel Payne and Kevin Madden join us now. Joel is the Chief Communications Officer for MoveOn and a CBS News political contributor. Kevin is a senior partner at Penta Group and a former advisor to Mitt Romney's 2012 presidential campaign. Gentlemen, we appreciate you spending a bit of your Friday with the both of us on this. Kevin, let's begin with you. Now that the GOP field is widening, we feel like the race is kind of heating up. What do you think is the strategy behind Haley announcing now, considering all the other faces we saw on that graphic who are likely to announce a bid as well?
Well, I think the goal there is to get some of first movers advantage. One of the challenges that Nikki Haley will face right now is she just doesn't have really much name awareness beyond her home state of South Carolina. So if she wants to really get known by the grassroots activists that really make the difference for a campaign in places like Iowa and New Hampshire and beyond South Carolina into places like Florida and Nevada, getting there first and really starting to build some awareness with those grassroots activists, and even along the way, picking up some donors and sending the message to the broader donor community that you're in this campaign for the long haul and that you can perform at a high level. That's really going to help her campaign get known and then scale to the degree of scale that she's going to need if she runs a national campaign.
So, Joel, what about the Democratic perspective? When they look at that graphic and they see that potential field, who is the Republican candidate that they would like to take on in 2024?
Oh, boy, that's a good question, Elaine. I bet you that President Biden feels like he's got a good case against pretty much all of those candidates. And here's why. All of those candidates are kind of fighting this imaginary battle between themselves and the MAGA movement. Donald Trump is even fighting that battle. He's trying to make sure that nobody gets his right flank. And all of those other candidates, whether it's Nikki Haley or you mentioned Tim Scott starting his listening tour, they're trying to prove that they're MAGA enough for the base, but then they also know they're going to have to tack back to the middle to have a real chance to build a winning coalition. So I think President Biden feels pretty good about his chances against any of those candidates. I think some stand out, Nikki Haley being what would apparently be the only woman in the field from the graphic that you're showing, Tim Scott apparently being the only non-white male in the field. But I think President Biden feels like I got a case to make against all of them, particularly look at the case that President Biden is making about protecting Social Security and Medicare. I also think that's going to be a defining issue as he starts to lay out the battle lines for 2024.
But wait a minute, Joel, based on what you've just said, have you just predicted a potential Republican ticket, right? Haley and Tim Scott, maybe? Right. They do have a bit of background.
Sure. But I'm sure that's music to their ears and music to the ears of all the Palmetto Staters out there. It's a long race. I will say this also. People are afraid of long, messy primaries. I think they're good. I think they're helpful, particularly when parties are in these identity crisis moments. I think Democrats were in a similar moment in 2020. I was a part of a race in 2008 where there was a similar fight for the soul of the Democratic Party, so to speak. I actually think those tend to be pretty healthy. So I'd buckle in if I was my friend Kevin and other Republicans.
All right. So, Kevin, on that note, well, we see there Senator Tim Scott, the South Carolina senator, said to a radio station yesterday, quote, "I bet there's room for 3 or 4 when it comes to the GOP 2024 field." So how has he been laying the groundwork for a potential bid?
Well, first of all, I like Joel's optimism. I usually find these primaries pretty messy. So, and
you've had a messy one or two.
Yeah, that's right. And there's potential for a bit of a reawakening or even like a bit of a civil war inside the Republican Party. So it could get very difficult to head. But, you know, Tim Scott's approach here, I think, is a much starker sort of contrast to what we saw from the Trump approach over the last few years. He's known as somebody with a really long reputation and a record as being a fiscal conservative, very focused on policies beyond just your traditional Republican agenda, too. He's leading the way on police reform, for example. So he has an ability here, I think, to really break out from the pack. But I think the starkest contrast that he's going to offer is one in his tone and demeanor are much more optimistic. They're much more visionary. He has a really great personal story to tell. So I think that's really the path he's looking to chart as he tries to break out of what could be a bit of a crowded pack. It'll be especially crowded in South Carolina, given that he's had not only his home stater, Nikki Haley, in the race, but the other home state senator, Lindsey Graham, has indicated that he's going to stay strong with his support for former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, as you point out, Kevin, I mean, there's already such a fascinating dynamic in just that one state alone. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the months ahead. Joel Payne and Kevin Madden, thanks to you both.